Are we live yet? Now we're live. Raphael, you go.
We're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show. Today, we're discussing a topic that I think is probably one of the most important topics that we've discussed. As you can read in the title, Vices and Devices, we're going to talk a little bit about what it's like living in this era of Facebook and other social media. And how can we have a more empowered relationship with this and use these powerful tools to enrich our lives rather than distract us and take away from our experience. So we're going to dive into this today, and yeah, looking forward to this one, Alesh. And I was thinking we might have to make this one a multi episode series. There's a lot to cover here.
Yes, we may. And I'm kind of hooked despite having multiple devices to actually work with right now. I'm eager to hear how you are actually dealing with it, Raphael, and also how the people who are watching this may be dealing with this. Because, let me tell you, for me, this was a bumpy road and actually still is. Just this week, I gotta say, I had issues with my commitment of staying off YouTube, and what I did instead was finding other avenues, to spend time with my tiny screens and the big ones.
Mm-hmm.
Not YouTube, but still. So it has a lot of power over me. It had in the past. I implemented some things, but it didn't always work. But before we go into that, why even bother? I mean, why do we care about this? Why not to just submerge into the bliss of dopamine rush provided by the networks? There's so much out there that you can use. There's so much out there that you can be entertained by. Why trying to disconnect? I mean.
Yeah, what a great question. And I don't think there's a right answer. This is going to be very personal for each person. And we all have our different poisons or different vices, if you will. One person may be really hooked on Facebook and another one YouTube, and maybe all of the above, Instagram, you name it. There are so many options, like you said. And that's not necessarily wrong. So the question to ask yourself is, what kind of experience would you like to have? Are you doing this willingly, or do you feel like you're enrolled in some experiment and you're it's out of your control? So those are some good questions to begin with, and I'm sure more will surface as we kind of dive a little bit deeper. So I can only speak to my personal experience, and as some of our viewers will know, we've been on like you mentioned earlier, 30 days without YouTube, which was really good for me because YouTube happened to be like my poison of choice as of late. I've set some pretty strict limits with Facebook, and I'm not really on any other social media apps. I had my time with Reddit for a while, and that was really bad, and I've let that go, and now I use it, for searching specific things. So to answer your question, why is going to be different for everyone, right? And some of us are having to spend a lot of hours on a screen for work as well, which is not the case for myself. So I think that adds a little bit to it. And again, this is going to be very personal for each person. And so I think it'll be interesting to share our own personal experiences with this. We can follow up a little bit on how it's going with the YouTube. And like you mentioned, you had some challenges with YouTube in the last week and found yourself then kind of going to other things. And I found something very similar happening, particularly during the first week of the no YouTube challenge, as we, I guess, called it. And for me, it was like I suddenly found myself using Clubhouse, which turned out to be overall a really good thing. I've kind of been exploring this social audio thing and connecting with new people, which is something that I've been having a little bit of a challenging time doing. So this has been good, and a little bit different, obviously, because it's audio. You can kind of have it playing in the background, and you're not, this endless scroll kind of thing. It's, kind of like tuning into a very random radio show with no production value whatsoever. So for me, why is I find myself often on my phone much longer than I care to be. And so for me, it's about having being there by choice and not feeling like I've fooled myself into spending more time than I ought to be spending on these platforms. Now, clearly, some people are using these tools in very powerful ways, influencing a lot of people, connecting with a lot of people, creating a lot of abundance financially, socially, and otherwise. And particularly over the last over a year now that we've all been in this pandemic, I think it was in a lot of ways more important than ever. People were able to stay connected with friends and family when they couldn't be physically close to each other. So, it's not that these things are bad. And I feel like there's no turning back at this point. We're in so deep, right? We're going for it. So how do we use these tools to serve us in a way where we feel like they are enriching our lives and helping us create more of the experience that we want, rather than kind of enslave us and leave us feeling worn out, depleted, and like we had too much of something. So those would be some of the first reasons for myself, and I'm looking forward to hearing what you have to say about this, Ales. And I think we may have lost Ales. So if any of you have anything to add to this, I'd love to hear a little bit about how you're feeling challenged with your devices, with your phones, with your screens. And do you feel like you have a choice in the matter, or do you feel like it's out of your control? Do you find yourself using your phone at times that might not be the most appropriate, or when you would like to be doing something else? And is this a behavior that you'd like to change in some way? So for myself, I've had to set limits on various apps to notify me when I've gone over. So with some of these apps, it's 5 minutes. Like with Facebook, once I've been on there for 5 minutes, the notification will come up on my iPhone. It will remind me that I've reached my limit for the day. And then, of course, I'm presented with an option. I can add a minute or 15 minutes, or I can ignore it for the day. Now, if I happen to be writing a post or responding to a story, then I may ignore it for the day and set a timer to remind myself again that I've been on the app for a certain amount of time, and it may be time to back off. Ales, I think we lost you for a minute. I kept this going, but I was talking about setting limits for specific apps on the phone and how that can be helpful.
Funny situation. Just testing. Can you hear me? Give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. You can hear me. I can't hear you. There's something on my end with the audio, I guess. And I don't see you muted. So I try to change my device, and I wonder if other people can hear you or if it's just on my end. So let me see. And,
maybe one of our
what we can do. Let's try to engage our audience. So if you can hear Raphael, type in the chat that you can hear Raphael, and if you can't, type in the chat you can't, because quite frankly, I don't know now if the issue is on my device or if it's universal in there. So let's see.
Bear with us as we deal with these technical difficulties. The irony is not lost on me.
Raphael, say something.
Say
something wise. No.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Okay. It seems other people can hear you, so that's pretty cool.
Great.
But this is gonna be remarkable, I'd say. So because I really can't hear you, and I don't know what to do with that. So I wonder how to tackle this as a challenge. So let me do this, everybody. What I'm going to do, Raphael, I'm going to leave you in here. I'll try to reboot my system. Hopefully the video will still work. Before I do that, I'd like to say that it's okay. Ellie can hear us both. I'd like to say that this is actually very good parable for me, or a metaphor of how the social network often works. So uh, I cannot. I feel siloed to some extent when I'm on this social network. We are all kind of screaming into the abyss, and
Yeah.
you can see this as an amalgam of sounds or inputs from a lot of people, but it's very difficult to actually engage in depth with an individual person and have a conversation. And I'm experiencing it
Sure.
right now. So it's good to know that all those platforms allow us to do more than we otherwise would. But of course, what also happens, they deepen our reliance on them, and we are then upset or thrown off balance or unable to proceed when the platform doesn't work or doesn't provide the information or service we are expecting, which is happening to me right now. So, Raphael, I'm going to hand it over to you. I'll try to reboot the system to hear you well, and hopefully the stream will
Sure.
continue. So, I'm going to start with a question in there, which you probably haven't answered yet. We always share practices in here. We share what worked for us in the past or what didn't work actually, and we decided to kind of moderate or change or tweak it. So, I'm going to ask you in here to share with the audience, and I'm probably going to have to listen to it from the record. When did you first realize that the social networks are actually sucking off too much of your time, too much of your attention? What were the first steps when you tried to moderate this, and how did you adjust over time?
Yes. Yes, I'll be happy to answer those. So, for myself, I've only recently found myself back on social media. I managed to completely drop Facebook for about 5 years. And it was only after joining a mastermind group that Alesh and I met in. This was a Fearless Mastery with Leo Babauta, where there was a Facebook group that was kind of an essential part of the program. And so I found myself back on Facebook, which was kind of ironic because I was in this program to help improve myself and kind of continue on my personal development path. And part of that was not succumbing to distractions, procrastinating less, and this sort of thing. And suddenly, I found myself back on Facebook, which was actually very challenging for me in the beginning, and it took me the last year to learn how to kind of have a relationship with the platform where I feel like I can be there of my own will by choice and engage with people in a way that I'm bringing value and getting value, and not feeling like I'm just wasting my time. What I found is that things have changed a lot. I found that I was seeing things in my feed that, a few years back wouldn't be there. A lot of advertisements, posts from people that I don't really have any interest. So one of the things that I did was I unfollowed almost everyone. I mean, literally, pretty much everyone, with the exception of a few important groups that I was a part of, and some people that I'm very close with, and wanted to kind of stay current on their life and their situation. And I felt like I was doing a service to myself and sometimes to the other by unfollowing someone. And it's not that what they post is never interesting to me. It's when I go into a platform like Facebook now, I go in hopefully with some sort of intention. And I like to give myself a window of time. So it may be 15 minutes or it may be 30 minutes. And during that time, I'm in there with a purpose of some sort. And that might be just for entertainment. And so, that's a perfectly fine reason to use these platforms: communication, entertainment, to promoting the work that you're doing. How are we doing, Alesh? Can you hear me now?
I can hear you loud and clear. Sorry, I missed the
Fantastic.
best part, I hope.
Oh yeah, all the best stuff. So I was discussing my Facebook habits, how I'd
Mhm.
been gone for a few years from Facebook, and how I found myself back in there when you and I were in that mastermind together, and we had a Facebook group, which was kind of ironic for me. Here I was trying to improve my life, and suddenly I'm back on Facebook, which I had an incredible amount of resistance to. And interestingly enough, the program that we are enrolled in now that begins in September also has a Facebook group. So I have to say it took about a year, but I have dropped a lot of my defenses and decided to kind of embrace it. So now the question is, how can I have an empowered relationship with this platform and the other platforms that I'm on? And how can I catch myself if I'm using it in a way that's not really serving me? So personally, I find myself opening apps on my phone impulsively that I have no real intention. Like I haven't looked at the numbers, but I would imagine I open my email, 20 to 50 times on some days. Sometimes I'm waiting for a specific email, and I'm, have that like email anxiety and constantly refreshing. Oh, and did this message arrive? And here's what I'm looking for. But oftentimes I'm really not expecting anything urgent, and it's just kind of impulsive. And I tried a few different tricks. I deleted the Gmail app, and I'm only using the native app. And I think the next step for me is actually deleting the email app from my phone altogether, and having to log in completely. So this is what I've done with Facebook. I do not have the Facebook app on my phone. I do not have any social, with the exception of Clubhouse, which is on my phone. I got rid of Reddit, got rid of Facebook, never had Instagram or Twitter, TikTok, any of those things. So for me to engage with Facebook on my phone, I have to open a browser. I have to put in the username and the password each time, which that when we spoke in previous episodes, Alesh, about creating friction, this is a great example of creating friction with a habit that I want to be extra aware of. So this gives me a few different moments to make a choice. What am I here for? Why am I going into Facebook right now? How long do I want to be here for? So currently I have a 5-minute timer set. So after 5 minutes on the app, I'm reminded, hey, you've reached your limit for today. So this gives me all these choice points and opportunities. Am I here by choice? Do I want to be here right now? And how much longer do I want to be here? So this has been incredibly powerful and completely shifted the relationship. Now, I'll be honest, in the last few months, there have been times where I just pushed ignore for the day. I was engaged with some post, didn't want to be interrupted. Or in the case of sometimes I watch a lot of people that I know do live streams, and oftentimes the reminder will pop up in the middle of watching the live stream. So I'll push ignore for the day. So then I have to be extra diligent in how I'm engaging with it later. I also, while you were away from the screen, Alesh, I mentioned unfollowing a lot of people whose posts may not be important to you to seeing, may not be helping you, and maybe it's not even helping them that you're seeing them if you're not really engaging with the content. So I feel like you're doing a service to yourself and the person that you're unfollowing if that content is not really relevant to you anymore. So there are all kinds of tricks and ways where we can practice good hygiene. And so far, I've only talked about Facebook because that's really, other than YouTube and Clubhouse, for me, that's the only platform that I'm really engaging in. I never got into Instagram, and so I can't speak to that one. But I think the same would apply to other platforms as well. Love to hear about your experience with that, Alesh.
Thank you, Raphael. I just wanted to bring our attention to options to actually measure or understand how bad the situation is, because sometimes we don't know. So one of the options is the Rescue Time app. That's the one I tested in past. It allows you to kind of track what type of applications you are starting from your phone or from your PC. It gives you some breakdown of the basics. You can go pretty deep on that, but it's good to understand just how much time your YouTube app is on, and it can be very, very surprising. So to Raphael's point, I agree that once you know that this is a problem, and it could be a big number on the app or somewhere, it could be also just the perception that this is sucking off your time, and this perception is good enough reason to try. Once you have this sense, uninstalling stuff worked great for me. So I agree with this extra friction, making it extra difficult to use it. And when I was starting doing this, when I read about this the first time, I was like, why would I do that? Why would I want to make it difficult? And then I realized, yeah, that's what you want to do. You want to make the activities that are beneficial for you as easy as possible, as friction free, and the other way around. So for me, Raphael, what I found very useful, and I would recommend everybody to try, I uninstalled the YouTube app, and when I'm using YouTube, I'm using it from the browser, and I'm using the private browser, and I'm not logged in, which is interesting because whatever you watch under your account gets into your watched history, which is a very good. It's a very good service if you want to look back to what you watched, but also you are feeding this adaptive mechanism of YouTube, and it's feeding you back the videos that you are more likely to watch.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
surprise, surprise, if you see on your homepage the videos you're more likely to watch, you're more likely to watch them. So getting rid of this predictive algorithm on my YouTube homepage, which is literally the web page now, means that I actually see horrible things, Raphael. I see the things that a universal YouTube user would like to see. So I see a lot of lolcats videos and all these universal appealing things. But it saved me a ton of time because all of these clickbait videos that I would love to watch because they are aligned with my interests are not there anymore. Just tried it for a week, works like a charm.
Yeah, that's I was doing that for a while too, and I use the premium version of YouTube because one of the primary things I use YouTube for are like coaching, training videos, rowing, kettlebells, body weight stuff, things like that. And so having an ad pop up in the middle of a workout is never good. So for me, it was a no-brainer, and getting rid of the ads made the experience a lot better. That being said, you're absolutely right. So clickbait, the algorithm now understands which videos you're likely to engage with and click. And I certainly found myself, even during my training sessions, watching a lot of little clips from some of the trainers that I follow. And sometimes I would learn a lot from them and they would serve me. But other times I felt like I was just watching them for the sake of watching something, and found myself just consuming a lot more than I needed to, which was, kind of making everything take a lot longer than it needed to. And suddenly I'm like, putting down the kettlebell and watching another video or whatever it is that I'm doing. So I think that's a great point. And that could be very useful for some people to be logged out and on YouTube without being logged in, and they're with intention. And what is it that you're looking for? So this challenge has been great for me. We're on week 3 now of this 30 days no YouTube. And I have to say, I was probably spending at least an hour a day on YouTube, if not 2 hours a lot of days. And a lot of the content I was watching was great. I do guided meditations. I listen to a lot of lectures, and there are brilliant videos on YouTube. There's a ton of excellent content. The issue is we often end up skipping some of that stuff and watching little snippets. We just get these little dopamine hits of tiny videos. And what I've noticed in myself, and the data suggests that this is true for a lot of people, is a lot of people are not even listening to the audio. They're scrolling and reading the subtitles and kind of not even watching in full screen. So this is where this has gone now. We are just kind of watching this go by. We're reading a few subtitles for 2 minutes, or maybe the video's playing and we go back and it's playing and we're not really even present with the content, and we're scrolling and we're already looking for the next video. And so, what does that mean? What are we really gaining from that? And what is it that we're really after? And are we actually getting it from engaging with the platform in that way? So that's the question I've been asking myself. Like, what am I doing here? Do I want to be reading these subtitles in a third of my screen and sitting there for 5 minutes watching reading subtitles for a video I had no intention on engaging with in the first place? So these are important questions to ask ourselves now. And if that floats your boat and you're getting value out of that, that's how you want to spend your time, great. The invitation here is to make it an empowered choice, to say, I'm going to go in, and what's beautiful about this, Alesh, is you can go in and actually enjoy the time that you decide to spend that way. So if you give yourself an hour and say, I'm just going to go enjoy an hour on YouTube, I'm going to watch whatever videos come to mind that I feel like watching. I'm going to laugh. I'm going to engage with this content. I'm going to release any guilt I have about being on the app right now. That would be like an example of an empowered experience with YouTube versus, oh, let me just open the app for a second. And next thing you know, you've been on there for 45 minutes scrolling and haven't really gotten anything out of it. So what's the relationship? What are you getting out of your time that you're spending there? Do you feel like you're getting value for your time? Do you feel like you have an empowered relationship with the platform? These are the questions I've been kind of working with myself, Alesh.
Got it. And as you can see, I'm frozen. I'm so captivated by what you're saying. I can't even move.
You're speechless.
Yeah, it's no. I have some tech issues today. I don't really know why, but I've been trying to fix it. In any case, you can hear me, so that's something I can provide some reflection on that. I think I suffer from both, Raphael, and I realized that as you were talking about these tiny little videos, I've been trying to get better myself in how these videos are structured. So I've been trying to educate myself how to create more captivating videos. And of course, what I tell you is exactly what you said. So you need to give something in the first 5 seconds because people see the live preview as they're scrolling through the thumbnails. And you need to kind of, you need to do a handstand or whatever in there. So you make sure that people watch for the 6 and 7 seconds or more.
That's right.
At the same time, it works also the other way around. I realized that the Netflix experience, something that allows you to watch the movie without interruption, is working similarly in terms of hooking you up and not allowing you to actually disconnect from the screen. Let's see again. Okay, no, I'm gonna use the secondary camera. So what I mean is, in the past, when I was a child, of course, all the TV shows were interrupted by commercials, and the commercial was annoying. But looking back, I realized that was as Raphael tends to put it, that was the kind of decision moment, or that was the moment of choice where you could have chosen, to disconnect and switch off the TV or switch the channel. The dread of the networks, you can switch the channel, or at least the very minimum, you could have gone to the bathroom or refill your glass of water or whatever. It was an option. Now Netflix and all the networks are not even allowing you to have a break of the end credits of the movie or TV episodes. There's this default feature that is going directly into the next experience, which
That's
is
right.
a kind of odd analogy of our times. Not allowing you to reflect, not allowing you to pause and take a decision what the next activity should be, because you are kind of spoon-fed. It's
That's
being
right.
chosen for you, and without effort, you are getting the next portion.
Yes. I always have autoplay turned off whenever it's an option on any platform.
So let me see.
There are a handful of conspiracy theories going through my mind as we happen to be talking about YouTube and social media and digital hygiene, and we're having some very interesting technical issues.
Very true. Very true. They are trying to silence us, I guess.
We're getting canceled. This is the last episode, guys.
So let's see. Let's see again. Oh my God.
So while you're fussing with that, I'll continue a little bit. But
I'm back,
oh, look
but
at
go
that!
ahead.
You're back.
Go ahead.
You're back. They can't hold us back. We got too many cameras, too many platforms. We're unstoppable. Yeah. So this is an ongoing conversation. This is something that, and I have to tell you, it made me feel a lot better when I heard. I'm a big fan of Sam Harris, and he had an amazing guest on, Adam Ghazali, who is the author of a book called The Distracted Mind. And there are some great conversations that you can find with him on YouTube. What's interesting, Alesh, I want to kind of touch back on the live preview and kind of touch on people nowadays are often using multiple devices at once. So depending on the age group, people are doing several things at once. So if you're in the kind of younger age group, teens and tweens, and people kind of under 20, they might be like scrolling social media and listening to music. And older folks, like people that are in our parents' age group, might be watching television or listening to the radio while scrolling Facebook. So like this is how divided our attention has become. And when I hear someone like Sam Harris, who is a man with decades of meditation experience, probably much more focused than the average human has access to, talking about how even sitting and reading a book for an hour is now a challenge because he feels the draw to go check Twitter. That really brings it home for me. And it tells me that I have a lot of work to do. And this is something we really need to be constantly investigating in our own life. And, I'm not saying this is wrong. Only you can decide what's appropriate for you. Nobody else can really tell you that. But I think it's pretty easy to answer that question. How are you left feeling after you're engaging with these apps? Research suggests that people that post more have a kind of more positive experience with the app versus people who really just scroll and consume posts. And then that often leaves people feeling like everybody else's life is great and their life sucks. Oh, look at this person got engaged. This person's on vacation. This one had a baby. This one's got a new car. It's like all the good stuff is happening to everybody else, and you're just sitting there scrolling Facebook. That's the image we're presented with. That's how we're often left feeling. And so this is a question to ask. And we have a question here. What about social media used to keep in touch with your friends? How do you avoid the temptation of scrolling down social media when your friends are writing to you there? So this is an excellent question, Ellie. And this is a great example of how you can use social media to benefit you and to keep in touch. So absolutely. Now, going in with the intention of, I'm going to go on Facebook and I'm going to connect with a few people that I really that I care about, that I want to connect with, and be fully with that experience. And kind of decide beforehand, like how much time am I allowing myself to go be in this space? What do I want to? What would be an empowered experience? What do I want? What am I willing to dedicate to being on here now? And can I pull back when that time is up, rather than find myself, going into a hole and suddenly 3 hours have passed and the other tasks that you hoped to get done that day never got touched, and now where's your day gone? And this has happened to all of us. I'm certain of it. So you don't have to avoid the temptation completely. This is a beautiful way to use social media. But I would invite you to just take a look at the habits and make a decision. How much time do I want to spend here? And can I be fully with what I'm doing? The tendency is to kind of be half with the post that we're reading, and we're kind of like, our mind is already off to the next tree. I've heard it used with the example of like, like a monkey going from tree to tree picking fruits. It's like, we're not even tasting the fruit. We're not fully engaging with the one post. We're already off to the next thing. So this is a great place to practice mindfulness and see, like, can we be fully with the one post? Can we read, whatever it is that our friend posted, really feel what it is that they're trying to the message they're trying to send, and can we respond from a clear place before moving on to the next thing? So that's what I've got to say there. I hope that's helpful, Ellie.
I wonder how to, it's not the main like topic of this specific call, but I think it's related to it. So all of this FOMO, fear of missing out, that plays into it. I would like to address that, because the way I see it is, in the past, I often thought that I can transcend this, pitfalls or temptations by learning about the mechanisms, learning about how they actually work. So the idea of, if I understand how anger is born in my mind, I'm gonna transcend the anger. But that's not the case, right? Understanding how the basics of the chemistry in your brain work, it doesn't make you immune from dopamine, oxytocin, and others. And I have the sense that we are not really built to resist this overabundance of stimuli and opportunities. I'm assuming, as a caveman, you had limited access to food. So when you had food, you had to kind of eat it all. You had to feast on that and really consume everything. Yeah. The same probably with information. Information till the late or at least mid 1800s for the masses, the information were scarce and not readily available. Remember, we were still born in the times when you had to pay for newspapers, and now is the other way around. I don't think we are equipped to deal with that, and we are still craving. The FOMO is the craving to kind of consume everything that's in there, because you are kind of bracing yourself for the scarcity that is about to come, but it's not coming these days.
No. And what are you missing out on the rest of the world when you're locked into your screen? There's some real FOMO happening. I mean, you're always going to be missing on something, right? Whatever you're engaged with. I'm glad you brought that up, and I like the example of paying for a newspaper. I happen to believe that we could have a better experience if a platform like Facebook could eventually move to a paid model rather than an ad-based model. And actually, I think the user experience would be better, because you could end up with the content that you actually want to see and engage with, rather. I don't want to see another ad for a tapestry or another vitamin or another course or like whatever. My feed is so bombarded with this stuff that I've lost so much respect for the platform, and I feel like I have to be, like I'm going in on a mission, and I have to be hyper diligent, protect myself, get in, do what I need to do, and get out. And that's my experience with Facebook currently. And I'm always kind of examining my relationship with it and figuring out how I can engage with it more fully, while keeping my sanity and not losing myself to the app, because it's very tempting. I mean, how many people do you know that bring their phone with them into the bathroom? And people are taking like 5 times longer than they ever did. And I think this is a problem in workplaces. I've even heard of some places implementing like angled toilet seats and things like that, so people can't sit comfortably for 20 minutes on their phone. I mean, this is where we've ended up. And I feel like we're in the very early stages of this experiment that we've all essentially enrolled in. And so I know something like a paid model would not be appealing to a lot. So I think that clearly the model's working for Facebook. Is it working for everyone else? We don't really know. Probably yes for some, not at all for others. I mean, I've spoken to many people who feel they are fully addicted to Facebook. That's just one example. And don't feel like they have an empowered relationship at all. I mean, like they have said to me, like, I don't feel like I'm in control. I'm on there a lot more than I want to be. And I'm not, when I do get off, I don't feel good. I don't feel like I did something positive for myself. I feel like I've kind of given a part of myself away and haven't really taken anything from it. And often we don't even remember the things that we are engaged with. We're just kind of, like you said, going from kind of consuming more and more information and running from one thing to the next, and we're not really fully there with any one particular thing. So I think that's a real challenge that we have to look at today.
I think it's bringing in the idea of payment or the price, and is something that could be potentially helpful. So I know that most of us think that some things should not be valued in money. There are things that transcend money. Obviously, I wouldn't contest that. I think that's very true. At the same time, if you put a price tag on an activity or a service experience or time, it opens up a different type of thinking, a different mindset. And it was I don't know, Raphael, if you came across this discussion, but there was pretty heated discussion even back in the 90s when emails started to be a thing, whether or not they should be paid. And it was not supposed to be like an expensive service, but imagine a micropayment of an email. If you had to pay 1 cent for every person to whom you want to send an email, or each email, all of these, like the spam bots, they would not exist because they would not be financially viable. Some activities would just be extinct because we only indulge in them because we don't assign any price to them. We don't assign price tag to our time, and sometimes it's good, but it also allows us to be very wasteful about it because it's seemingly free. It's not.
There's always some cost, right? And I'm in a position where I'm paying for a lot of services where there is a free option. So I'm paying for premium YouTube. I pay for a secure email service as well. My Gmail over the years became so inundated with spam and garbage that it became completely useless to me. And it was an absolute mess beyond repair. And so I ended up going with a more secure, more private email subscription, and same with scheduling. And so I'm personally, I'm happy to pay for a service if I feel like I'm getting value from it. And when people are paying for a service, they're more likely to engage with it in a way. They're paying for an experience, and they want to feel like they're getting value. And so it's not, oh, this is free, so I just can consume it. Now, of course, if Facebook was a paid service, the user base would look very different. You've got a lot of young people on there that would likely not pay for it, and some other free version would pop up. But ask yourself, how are they making money? And at what cost is it coming to you? If you're spending 5 hours on the app a day and not for business and not really getting anything out of it, some people are doing that and they're absolutely creating value for themselves. They're getting a big fan base and they're engaging with their fans and they're creating value from the experience. But a lot of us are not. A lot of us are just kind of there. And so I would say that that's a greater price than whatever monthly fee might be introduced, $10 or $15 a month, and to only get content, and then to compensate content creators who are creating content that people want to engage with. So I think there is potential to move out of an ad-based model. I'm certainly not an expert in this field, but it's an experiment that I would like to see. And yeah, I mean, I would pay, put it that way.
Yeah, I'm just. I think it's when it comes to payment, I think that's something we need to tackle as an episode as well. How to actually use money, because I know, Raphael, we discussed lately offline our relationship to money and the changing way of approaching it. What I want to say before we leave or move on is um, thinking about what is the phenomenon described by behavioral economy. It's called mental accounting. So it's basically assigning different buckets in our head to different services, different types of spending money. To give you a specific example, I know a lot of people around me, many of them well off, who are just not willing to pay for smartphone apps. They just say, no, I'm not smartphone app. This is my mental bucket. Smartphone apps should be free. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting how many people engage even in the debate on the app sites, and the app store and everywhere, or Android store, and saying this is a free app, but they're commercials. Why are they commercials? Why are they ads built in? It's like, and I'm thinking, this is the bad example of mental accounting. This is you not willing to spend money over here. You may be willing to spend money on, I don't know, alloy wheels on your car, but you wouldn't spend $1.50 on an app, and you'd rather spend your valuable time on commenting on the app saying this should be free, there should not be ad. So trying to kind of break down this mental silos may open up new perspectives. And this goes not just for money, but also for our time. Very often we see the time on those networks as something separate that kind of doesn't count into our day, but it does. It's just
Absolutely.
one pool of time, one pool of money you have, and you're not going to get more.
Yeah, that's a really good point. We've talked about this before, Alesh. People guard their property and their self, but they don't protect their time. You walk away from your car, you lock the car, you set the alarm, you leave your home, your apartment, you lock the door, you have your security system maybe. You go to great lengths to protect your stuff. But your most valuable asset is your time and your attention. And we are guarding that less than we ever have as a society right now. And we think we're getting something for free. And if you think you're getting something for free, you might just be the product, maybe. So this is worth exploring and taking a look at. And this goes back to what I said about having an empowered relationship. Make a decision for yourself. Take a look at your screen time. How do you feel if you've had 4 or 5 hours of screen time versus 1 to 2 hours of screen time? I can tell you for myself, there's a direct connection between how much screen time I've had that day and how my mood is at the end of the day. Now, there are a lot of variables because depending on the nature of my screen time, if I'm on Zoom calls with clients, if I'm on Zoom calls with my groups, if I'm really like engaging with people, I look at that as a very productive time, and I generally feel pretty good after that type of using my time in that way. If I find myself watching YouTube videos for 2 hours that I had not intended on watching, so I don't mean like 1-2 hour lecture that I sought out, that is an empowered choice. And when I do that, I give myself permission to be fully with that and say, okay, I'm going to watch this video. I'm going to put it on my laptop, not my phone. Often I'll do that. I'll find something on my phone and say, if this is worth my time, is it worth full screen? So that's a really good question to ask when you're watching a video. Is this worth putting on full screen and dropping everything else and really paying attention to it? Or am I just going to watch this on, a few centimeters of space, and with the sound off, reading subtitles and not quite really getting the content, it might not be worth watching at all if that's the way we're engaging with the content. And so that's one way to kind of differentiate between something that's worth your time and not. Is this worth watching on full screen and putting down the other distractions for whatever length of this particular video is? And if not, if it's not worth doing that, is it really worth my time? So, you know, that's something that I found kind of a helpful question or prompt to pose when engaging with content in this way.
This one's brilliant, Raphael, and I kind of felt this distinction, but I never kind of conceptualized it this way. I never asked it this way, and I should, because that's exactly right. You know, in the last couple of days, it kind of I feel like I did that. I was just watching something, and it was like educational video, but it was like a couple of seconds here. Then I go to the kitchen, you know, and prepare a meal, and it's running in there. I'm pausing. It's like this start-stop, you know, when you are stuck in traffic. So this,
yeah.
And exactly. And I would just the fact that I am willing to invest the extra couple of minutes only just to you know, fire up the bigger screen and sitting down watching it, that would make a lot of difference. And I need to start doing that.
Yeah, it makes a big difference. And even if it's not on your bigger screen, but even full screen on your phone, you know, how often are you watching the video and scrolling looking for a different video? I mean, I certainly found myself doing that. And that's when I can tell that I'm not really having an empowered experience, that I'm kind of in a trance and I'm just looking for something to do. And I can promise you that there are a number of things that are better that I could be doing. You know, I could put that down and I can do something physical. I can go for a walk. I can read a book. I'm finishing a book that I read this month. So this was a perfect, this no YouTube challenge was a really eye-opening challenge for me. And like I said, the first week I found myself going deep into other things and wanting to snack more and like all these, basically wanting to fill that void with whatever I could to make myself feel comfortable, which will be another topic we can discuss. It. We can do a full episode on comfort and how we seek comfort and what kind of freedom we can discover by being willing to be uncomfortable. Because I think that that's a really big part of this is we kind of, you know, we use this almost as like a blankie or a bottle. Sometimes we just want to feel fuzzy and good, and we don't really want to think about the thing we have to do or we ought to do, or that task or that project or whatever. And why not just sit here and scroll? It's so easy.
True. That's true. So I think we should there's almost the time when we should kind of discuss what we're going to tackle next time. And what I'm going to do before I'm going to try to sum up what were the takeaways of today. So I think for me, definitely the takeaway is what Raphael suggested. You know, ask yourself, is this worth watching at the big screen, or at least full screen? And are you, if you're not willing to make that commitment, it's simply not worth watching. For me, it's also, and Raphael said it himself, one possible way to limit is be mindful about why you are going to the platform. So if you're going there, whose post are you going to read? So knowing in advance, I'm going for this specific video of this specific person, or I'm going for this specific extra episode of something else, like, you know, Ales and Raphael episode, then you're excused. Then you could, of course, then you have very good reason to open it up. If you don't know, if you're just there to check stuff, that's probably a good indication that you don't have very strong reason to do that.
And let me just jump in and say that can be okay too. That's fine too. But if you're going to do that fully and give yourself permission to do that. Say, you know what? I don't really know what I'm going in for, but I'm going to give myself 30 minutes to scroll. and give yourself that permission to do that. And this is the same concept as giving yourself permission to relax and do nothing for 30 minutes or whatever activity, to really be fully with it. Instead of having that, I'm sure a lot of you are familiar with that feeling of having like one foot in and one foot out. And I think that with these platforms, there's often that feeling of like, I'm here, I don't really want to be here, I don't know if I should be here, kind of feel like I'm supposed to be doing something else, but I'm kind of here. So that, I would say that that is kind of a self-destructive way, and a disempowered way to engage with these tools. And so if you don't know, fine, but make that decision and give yourself permission and say, I'm just going to go have fun for 30 minutes and I'm going to be fully with that, or I'm going in with some sort of purpose. I'm going to post something, I'm going to engage with these people or this group or whatever it is. And yeah, so to kind of recap a little bit, that's one thing to look at. Setting time. First step would be take a look at what's the biggest time suck for you. So for me, it was YouTube. And so this 30-day challenge was great. Now I've had to bring a little more awareness to how I'm using Clubhouse. The first couple of weeks of just getting kind of to know it, I went really deep, and now I've really tapered off, and I went completely unplugged Saturday and turned off all devices and had zero engagement with that. And that was a really good way to reflect. So again, set times. We schedule so many things. We schedule meetings, we schedule lunch, we schedule all these appointments. You can schedule your time with social media too. You can say, okay, I'm going to spend 30 minutes or an hour, whatever time works for you. And then you've got a container and you've got a decision that you made. And that's an empowered relationship with these tools. And that's what I'm advocating for here, is just to take a look and do it in a way that's serving you, that's making you feel like you're actually gaining something from this or contributing something to others with this, creating value.
I'm actually, inspired by this. I'm thinking what we should or could tackle next time, and we may kind of expand this topic. But I love the idea of being fully present, not this as you said, one in, one leg in, one leg out, or one foot in, one foot out, whatever that was. Yeah. I like that, because that's coming back, and that's something I feel I struggle with all the time. It seems to be the default in the way the civilization is now structured. And I'd love to dive deeper into this topic. Would this be inspiring for you, Raphael, or would you like to do something else next time?
I would be happy to do that topic. Another topic I've been wanting to explore is comfort, and how we, what comfort means in our life, how we are constantly seeking it and avoiding discomfort. And that can be applied to what we discussed today, as well as the many other various topics that we've discussed in the past, Ales. So I'm open. We don't have to decide now. We can take this offline, but we are working towards posting our topic ahead of time, which is something that we have not been good at. I think this is our 13th episode. For those of you that have been there the whole time, thank you. We really appreciate you guys sticking with us and watching this, and we hope you're getting some value out of this. But we're always looking to improve and create a better experience for you as well.
Absolutely. And it explains a lot. 13th episode, Raphael. That's why we had the technical issue. So sorry.
That's right. Yeah.
But we made it through. Yeah. So thank you all for being with us, and we'll be back Tuesday, same time, episode 14.
Indeed. Thank you all. See you next time.